What's up guys? So today's drink I'm drinking is called UCC coffee. So it's a pretty sweet coffee with a little bit of caffeine. So if you like something that's a little sweet and cheaper than Starbucks, then I'd recommend this. Excuse my background since I'm still moving into a new apartment, which explains why I'm sitting on the ground. So we just got this new hot fire waifu Efreet, and many players have been wondering whether or not they should roll for her and if she's worth it. The short answer is of course. The whole idea of a gacha game releasing a new character is of course making money, so why not make her powerful? That's the short answer. If you want to hear more of my first impressions, stay tuned. There's some things I like about her and some things I don't like. Starting off with her general overview, Efreet is a fire elemental warrior whose design was meant to be similar to Belle and Hestia, with the concern that players who were able to get Belle during the limited Danmachi event having an unfair advantage. Efreet is the answer to that. To put it simply, I think Efreet is a stronger version of Belle in most ways. Going right into her skills, her first skill is essentially a strong burst damage active skill that inflicts burn on the enemy. The skill itself does massive damage, and the burn inflicts even more. Efreet's next skill essentially provides stat boosts to mainly herself and Kane. She gets increased accuracy and boss damage in proportion to her level, skill level, and cooldown reduction. Efreet and Kane will also deal extra damage towards Leaf enemies while Kane is wearing his Efreet costume. This skill isn't so special, but it is useful against Leaf raids and Leaf bosses. Her third skill is also another self buff. The main takeaways are that she gains increased health, defense, and a shield every time she uses her active skill. The amount of the shield is based on her attack, and while it is up, the damage received by Leaf enemies is reduced. This further hints at using her in Leaf raids and Leaf bosses, and it's nice to have but doesn't provide anything major to the team. Efreet's fourth skill simply increases her attack and crit damage but makes her extra squishy against dark enemies. The extra effect of this skill boosts the damage your team does towards Leaf enemies. And lastly, Efreet's last skill increases her attack even further, and the added effect increases her attack speed, damage, and ensures that all her attacks are guaranteed to crit, so don't worry about getting crit rate on her gear. All in all, she acts as a similar character to Belle and Hestia. She has an ultra powerful active skill that inflicts massive damage, and has some decent team passes for offense, but none really that greatly affects defense. Alright, so now that we have some understanding of her skills and capabilities, where should I use her and where would she be on the tier list? Because of her massive damage capabilities, Efreet will be useful in most parts of the game, pretty much everywhere besides PvP and Slasher. Because of her high damage and burn capabilities, you can better deal with tanky bosses in Adventure Mode, Dark Lord's Tower, Abyss Mode, and Guild Territory, whereas in PvP and Slasher, characters with blocks still dominate the PvP, and specialized characters like Belphegor, Dark, and Kana dominate Slasher mode. In regards to using her in raids, I personally don't see myself using her in too many raids besides maybe just the Leaf raid, but for some players who have Belle and Hestia, using them might provide better results as some late game raid strategies require stalling, and that leads me to the only downside of Efreet, which is her short animation. Compared to Belle's animation, which is very long and can stall, Efreet is incredibly short in comparison, so if you're in a scenario where you may need to animation cancel or stall to use another character's skill, then Belle may be better for you. So the ultimate question is, where would I put her on the tier list? I have to treat this as though I'm a new player that missed the Danmachi collaboration, so for those who couldn't get their hands on Belle and Hestia, I would definitely put Efreet somewhere in the middle A to high B tier and get at least one copy of her. This is due to many reasons. Her main attraction is her burst damage, which is something that multiple characters can already do, such as Airi, Ymir, Kana, and even Danmachi collab characters. So that's not special, and as a result, I don't think she's a high priority for transcending and rebirthing at this moment. She doesn't monopolize any roles such as Mia and Ymir, so I'm hesitant to place her in the S or even the top of A tier. However, her damage output will prove useful to the majority of new players, and her quit is quite packed with a handful of useful skills and team passives, so I think she deserves a solid A at best, or even a B due to the fact that some late game players may seldomly use her. In summary, here are some takeaways you should get from the video. Efreet is a Leaf killer and does massive damage, which makes her an asset in most game modes. And remember that her skills get stronger with increased cooldown reduction, but the actual cooldown reduction of her skills is not affected by that. Remember that her last passive skill makes all her attacks crit, so there's no need to build crit rate on her. And again, don't use her against dark type bosses because she'll just get obliterated by them. That pretty much sums up my initial thoughts on Efreet. It's still too early to tell where she is in the tier list without further testing, but should I run into any further realizations, I'll be sure to update you guys here. If you guys found the video helpful, then please support the channel by giving it a like. I'd greatly appreciate that. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.